And our work, Sacred Earth, actually was inspired by the philosophies behind two different ritual artwork. One is, I'm from southern India, so they are Kolams of South India, which you will get to see and do and try a little bit after we finish this part of the workshop. And the Warli, this is called the Warli art, W-A-R-L-I. The Warlis are a tribe, it's a tribe of people that live about 150 kilometers from Bombay, which is a big city, Mumbai they call it. And I had seen the paintings, but I have never known anybody who had done it, or any artist who was, working artist. So when we were looking for an artist, I did a lot of research on the internet and couldn't find anybody, and through a friend found a woman in the Crafts Council of India, New Delhi, who suggested Anil Vangad's name. So the tribe hardly ever leaves their little village. He lives in the village of Dhanam. So Anil doesn't speak much English. At least I haven't heard him speak English, even though my dancers and other people say that he can speak English. So he makes me translate everything in Hindi. So that's what's going to happen. He speaks Marathi, which is the language that is spoken in that area. Then he has a tribal language, that's the Warli language. And then Hindi is something that he has learned by, he is invited to New Delhi and to other places in India by the government of India to take his work and show it. So he speaks Hindi, and that's something that I learned a little bit. So I can translate whatever he speaks. I understand 90% of it. So when we found him, we started to discuss how are we going to use the philosophy behind these two art forms. Now the Warli people live, what I have read before I met Anil was that they live in harmony with nature, that they don't even milk their cows because they think it's for their calf, that you should not use cow's milk because it's not meant for human, it's meant for their calf. So they don't have gas, they don't have electricity. I mean, they have electricity, they don't use refrigeration. They live very, very simple lives, and they grow their own crop, they don't buy it from outside. So everything that we call local and green, they actually have lived like that for thousands of years. And so when Anil came, we had seen some of his paintings, and he came to Minneapolis and he drew this large scale 3 canvases that were 9 feet by 5.5 feet that we have photographed, and we have used in our production parts of them in a way that the folk quality of the work hasn't disappeared.
What is the purpose of the artwork? Does it serve a purpose?
क्या रीज़न है आप ये आर्ट वर्क कर रहे हैं?
ये हमारा ट्राइबल आर्ट है, जो हमारे कई साल से आदिवासी समाज के पारंपरिक पद्धति से हम शादी के टाइम, दिवाली के टाइम, दीवार के ऊपर ये चावल के आटे से बनाते हैं.
Okay, so it's a tribal art. They're called Adivasis, or early people, and they never did it on canvas. It's done on the walls of their huts, and it's done during Diwali, which is a very it's a very big festival in India, which happens actually in November, during weddings, and during particular time in the year they paint their walls of their homes, and that's what you see in the canvas is usually traditionally only done on the walls. What inspired us to work with Anil and our Warli artist is that life is all inclusive. It's not just humans and nature. Nature means, if you look at it, every painting has the smallest insect, a little shrimp, a snake, at the same time he has those big things, and the gods. Everything is all together, and that's what we are all about. Human life is not just humans, but we have to, how much attention is paid to all small details. So you make these patterns, and these are traditional designs that you learn from your mother. Mother teaches the daughter. It's only done by women, never by men. Usually if men never even, it's a woman's job, and that's why it's always done by, and women take pride in it because they are actually, usually rituals are done by men and women do this. And it's also birds and insects eat them all day because it's out there and it's a tropical country, so there's always some creatures. And people walk on it, it blows away, and the next morning the ground is cleaned and another design is done to remind you that things of beauty don't last forever and that there's always a renewal that happens. And you can do this 5 to 3, you get 1, 8 to 3, you get 4, 16 to 6, you get bigger. So it's very, very mathematical. That's what makes this very exciting to me, because someone planned, someone did these designs. And there are hundreds of these designs. And there's a 5 across, 5 down. There's 150 ways of connecting those. So really, what you learn is patience. As a child, I started learning it when I was 5 years old. My mom taught it to me on the kitchen floor of my grandmother. She would draw it with chalk. She'd make the dots, then I'd connect it. 5 times later, she'll say, you make the dots yourself, and then it'll all go this way. But then you learn patience by, and if it's not straight, then you can't see the patterns even. So we use rice flour. The reason why they use rice flour is it's an offering to the earth for what we have received. So our sacred earth, the production sacred earth, is based on this whole idea of kolam. It starts with this early morning in how people drop. Instead of doing small rice flour, we have the dancers walking around with, I'm not going to give away too much of this. They are making we combine, when the Warli drawing happens from one side to side, we do it in front, but we had the dancers make the floor drawings as the dancers dance into it. So we have combined the two ideas. The whole evening is 70-minute, no intermission. It starts and ends continuously. And the music, and then at the end, we have done a 20-minute piece based on Anil's Warli, where the dancers, it's constantly drumming, and they are going back and forth with all those activities that you see in the painting, but choreographed in an extremely classical style. So we wove those folk images into this classical work.
Does it matter if we...
Left.
As long as this isn't too aerobic,
Second. Yep.
Where are we going? We look like we're going in.
Okay.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Second.
Just going.
First.
Oh no, now with music.
There we go. हमारा ये जो अभी पहले जो डांस किया वो तारपा जो दिखाया है ना, वो तारपा डांस किया. उसके बाद जो गौरी डांस किया.
Gauri.
जी.
Gauri Parvati.
हाँ.
So first one was that tarpa dance in circle. Second was called Gauri dance, and Gauri is the goddess Parvati, and it's very tribal folk style. And
तो ये तारपा डांस किया ना, वो कंटिन्यू 5-6 घंटा डांस करते हैं.
5-6 hours they dance like that.
Oh my.
सेम अलग-अलग डांस मतलब
Different people come in and go, but they keep dancing.
तो हमारा ये जो डांस है, जैसे शादी में डांस करते हैं वो
During wedding they dance.
तो 2 ढोल और बांसुरी जो गाना बोलेंगे,
Drum and
हम जो गाना बोलेंगे वो बांसुरी में गाना बोलेंगे.
so people sing, and the flute also they play the same thing.
जैसे एक तरी रे मी हो संग दादा, एक तरी रे मी हो संग, ऐसा मतलब वो कोई गाना बोलेगा ना तो एक भी तो मैं भी बोलूँगा, मतलब अभी एक दूसरे को फिर चढ़ाते
Oh,
हैं.
it's like making fun of each. He will say something and they'll say reply, response to it, call and response.
जो लेडीज
Kind of.
बोलेंगे ना तो
So the ladies will say it and
तो
men
मैं,
will say
हाँ,
something.
ऐसा, तो वो बांसुरी में गाना बोलेगा.
Then the flute also will say the same thing.
तो ऐसा पूरा नाइट भर डांस
All
होता है.
night they dance. Yeah. So they said during the wedding they do. एक बार कर लीजिए वो.
ऐसा.
Whoa.
ऐसा. तो आजू बाजू में जो डांस करते हैं तो पूरा बाल पक जैसे जाता है मट्टी जो.
They said all dust and everything gets into their hair and they
मगर
just.
कोई वो देखता नहीं सब डांस पे.
Nobody cares about it. They just get into it and
और
dance.
कपड़ा वपड़ा किसी का
All
गजरा
the
गिर
clothes,
जाता है.
everything is all full
Ladies-
of dust and mud.
लेडीज जो पल्लू डालते हैं वो भी ऐसा गिर जाता है
Even the
फिर
sari,
भी.
pallu and everything falls and they still dance.
क्योंकि एक दूसरे
But seeing Anil is rare because, you know, this is a big opportunity for him to come out of the country and it worked out really well for us because it worked with our project. So I think it's really was fun working with all of you. Thank you so much. The performance includes all these ideas and philosophies and music, classical music, and Indian classical dance to make Sacred Earth into this visual poetry, actually. Well, they'll see, you know, beautiful choreography, stunning visuals of the Warli paintings that are that were custom made for this program that is projected. You can see the dancers themselves making the floor drawings on stage as they dance on it. The you know, remarkable technique of South Indian classical dance and soulful music and poetry. Well, the idea was based on the two visual art forms, and then it grew into how do we represent these two through dance. So the philosophies behind it, we were inspired by that and the visuals, and together the poetry actually connected all these art forms.